I literally got coached by Tony Robbins. I was writing like a crazy person, like, okay, do this. He's like, here's what you do. And I'm like going, okay, I got $1 million coaching right now. Here we go. I'm literally listening to everything he's going. So after we were done with the call, or at the end of the call, he said, hey, I don't know if you're interested, but I'm actually going to be in New York City to do one of my UPW seminars. And he said, I would like to give you and your wife front row tickets to that event. There's about 15,000 people that are going to it. Would you like to go? And I was like, I would. Thank you so much. That's very considerate. And sure enough, it was amazing. And it was because I had a freaking book. If I'd given him a business card, you know how long that would have lasted?
Right.
Welcome to the Regenerative Warrior Podcast, Doctor's Edition. One of the fastest growing regenerative medicine and anti-aging podcasts in the world. Each and every Tuesday and Thursday, I talk to the top experts to show doctors how to market, manage, and magnify their practice to help more people and make more money. Each episode is short and to the point without wasting your time with pointless conversation. Learn the skills to be successful without traveling to seminars or paying for expensive consulting fees. Are you ready? Because I am. I'm Dr. Ross Carter, and it's time to start the Regenerative Warrior podcast now.
Before we get started, I want to welcome all of our new listeners. Thank you for spreading the word about our podcast. And a word from our legal department. The views expressed by our guests are not necessarily those of Dr. Carter or this podcast. Additionally, this podcast may contain opinions or beliefs contrary to your own. So be sure to ask your doctor if the Regenerative Warrior podcast is right for you. And if you are a doctor, just ask yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, step right up to listen to the next episode of the Regenerative Warrior podcast. And on with the show.
All right, Dr. Ross Carter, you are a two-time #1 best-selling author, international speaker, business consultant. What were the things that you did that enabled you to grow your practice so quickly?
So it just by crazy chance, I was out at an event. I was doing a health fair, and there was another business owner there, and he had a line of people at his booth. So I was like, okay, why is everybody at this guy's booth? I went over to his booth, and what he was doing was he was taking his book. It was talking about what his business did, and he was giving out to prospective clients, and he would get their contact information. And I was like, this is brilliant. And I talked to him, and he said, this would changed his entire business. I mean, that's how he got all his clients. He would give away his book. He wasn't selling his book. He was giving it away. He would get their contact information. And then now the people would look at him as the expert in that industry. I mean, he's got a book, clearly. So I was like, oh my God, I got to do this for myself. So I was like, okay, I'm going to write a book. Now, keep in mind, I am not the best writer in the world, nor did I have a whole lot of time to write a book. I really didn't even know exactly what I was going to write about because I've never done it before. So I spent, I don't know, probably 6 months trying to write this book. It wasn't panning out. Eventually I said, you know what? I either need to write the book and get help or just stop. And so I decided to hire a coach, and I did. And he helped me to figure out how to, write a book quickly, which is what I needed to do, and explain and create what's called an authority book. And an authority book basically talks about a specific condition that you help with, or in this case, I was talking about joint conditions and how I did it. But not only how I do it, but how I do it better than everybody else. Because when you are the best, people now look at you as the expert. And that's what they did with me. And they came to me because they're like, I want you. I read about you. I know about you. And so now I'm the expert in this industry. When you're the expert, people treat you like one and they pay you like one. And so what I did was I have a copy of this book.
And so you worked with the coach, you got the book written, and how did you decide to do to get it printed? Did you go through Amazon?
Well, at that time, this was before that. I did it through something called CreateSpace.
CreateSpace is connected with Amazon.
Correct. Now Amazon owns it. But back then, I did it through CreateSpace or, self-publishing. I didn't do the traditional publishing route. And I published the book. And then I needed a platform to share it with everybody. So I would go out to events and give them out. And I called it my $1 million business card because, so you take a business card. Let's say I have this business card. And when you go out to an event, people throw these out constantly. They're like trying to get business from this little piece of paper. it has no value because what does it tell somebody? Just your contact information. It doesn't share with them how you're an expert or an authority on your topic. It doesn't say how you solve their problem. So I was like, you know what? I have a better idea. Instead of using one of these and giving them out because I know they're going to throw them away, I would use my book and give this out as my business card. I know that sounds a little weird, but I would literally take a book. So I developed this technique where I would take the inside cover and I would write my contact information. Like I would give them a direct access number. I say, if you have a question about whatever, contact me at this number, like, skip the front desk. And I put their name in it and I would sign it. And guess what? No one would throw this book away. Now, my business card was gone within a few seconds. My book is probably still in their bookcase. I mean, think about how many people throw away a book.
Yeah.
Who throws away a book? Nobody does. We still respect the books and believe what's in here is true.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I just rewatched all of the Marvel movies in preparation for Avengers Endgame. And I think it was Iron Man 2 or 3, I think 3, where he meets the one guy in the elevator and he goes, well, here's my card. And he goes, well, I'll take 2, one to not use and one to throw away.
Exactly.
So if you happen to be in an elevator with Tony Stark and you give him a book, maybe the book would work a little bit better.
Well, it's funny. I would go out to places where celebrities went and I would give them my book. And what was crazy is the people that were interested, they would call me. So I'll give you an awesome story. Do you like Tony Robbins?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I actually was invited by Tony Robbins to speak and teach his business mastery group.
He's an amazing.
Yeah. I'm connected.
He's my most favorite guy ever. I mean, I think he's an amazing guy. So Tony was coming to, where was it? Atlanta, where I lived. And they had these like a little one-day seminars. And then they had you get the best special and you get a meet and greet. And so I was like, okay, I want to meet Tony because, I've respected him. I thought he was an amazing guy. And so they had this, you pay $50 to get in or $2,000 to get a meet and greet and get a picture. And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. I'm going to do it. So I went with a purpose and plan. So I took my book. I didn't even know if he would give a crap. So I took my book and I hid it because they made sure, you can't take your phone in there. I mean, they literally strip searched you. But I had the doctor's pockets, so it was low, so they didn't kind of see it. It was flat, so they didn't look for it. So I got in and I'm waiting in the line and I'm like, I'm sweating because I know what I'm about to do, right? I'm about to give Tony Robbins, my idol, this book. And it had like all my contact information already ready, right? So I get in there and I said, hey, you're awesome and all this great stuff. And he was so nice. I mean, the guy was just so genuine and just, you can just feel when somebody really cares. He was like that. And I had like an outfit like on this with my doctor name on it. And he says, oh, what kind of doctor are you? Well, I said, I specialize in regenerative medicine. He goes, that's really cool. That's an area that I'm really interested in right now. And I was like, oh, well, that's really interesting because I brought a book. So I pull out my book and I said, hey, and I've got it signed and my information in here. If you have any questions, I'd like to give this to you. And he said, yeah, sure. Just give that to my assistant. I gave it to him and I was like, cool, that was all exciting. And, we got our pictures. So 2 weeks later, it's a Sunday night about 8:30. I'm sitting there working at home, right? This is Sunday night. I get a call and it says unlisted number or unknown number or something like that. Okay, so when I get those calls, I know it's a telemarketer. Somebody's about to try to sell me something. So I came on, I would say with a little attitude. I'm like, hello. And then I hear the voice of Tony and I'm like, I thought I was going to pass out. It was crazy. And he says, hi, it's Tony Robbins. Is this Ross Carter? And I'm like, yeah, hi, Tony. Great to hear your voice. Yeah. Now, it wasn't his assistant. I didn't know this was going to happen. It was him calling me personally. He called me and we chatted for, he was literally asking me everything about all the stuff in my book. He told me that I needed to edit a little bit because had some words that weren't so good. But, I'm not a writer. I told you that from the beginning. But anyway, he called me, we talked, he gave me some great advice, literally did kind of like a business coaching session with me. And,
oh my gosh.
Huh?
Oh, I said, oh my gosh, getting a business coaching session directly.
I literally got coached by Tony Robbins. I was writing like a crazy person, like, okay, do this. He's like, here's what you do. And he just like he doesn't soften it. He doesn't go, well, man. He goes, do this, do this, do that. Literally sits there and do it. I'm like going, okay, I got $1 million coaching right now. Here we go. I'm literally listening to everything he's doing. So after we were done with the call, or at the end of the call, he said, hey, I don't know if you're interested, but I'm actually going to be in New York City to do one of my UPW seminars. And I didn't mention at the time, I follow all of his seminars. So I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I'm like, I knew about that. And he said, I would like to give you and your wife front row tickets to that event. There's about 15,000 people that are going to it. Would you like to go? And I was like, I would. Thank you so much. That's very considerate. And sure enough, I got free tickets to the Tony Robbins event, and it was amazing. And it was because I had a freaking book. If I'd given him a business card, you know how long that would have lasted?
Right, exactly.
And I've done this several different times. Like one quick one, I met Diamond Dallas Page. Now, most people don't know who he is probably, but in the late 80s and early 90s, there was a lot of wrestlers in Atlanta. And I was a big fan, I have to admit. And Diamond Dallas, he was a 3-time champion. And during Christmas time, me and my wife were about to go to It's a Wonderful Life at the movie theater because she's from Colombia and she'd never seen it. And I saw him and I'm like, holy crap, I'd love to talk to this guy. And so I went to my car, grabbed a book, came back. So I was like, what do you say when you walk up to a celebrity? Hi, like everybody else does. So I walked up to him and I say, hey, Diamond, I loved you. You did a great, amazing career. If you have any problems with your joints or knees, I help with that. Here's my book. Here's my numbers on the front. Just give me a call. Guess what happened? I worked with him.
Amazing.
Yeah, he did some testimonials for me, all that stuff.
Listen, Dr. Ross, you got me convinced. Convinced. I've written the equivalent or produced, video content or easily the equivalent of 3 to 4 books. Easy.
Exactly. Most people have.
Sorry for the interruption again. To find out more about this speaker, become a speaker on our show, have Dr. Carter present at your event or podcast, learn more about coaching, consulting, tissue allografts, exosomes, supplements, legal help, or how to create $1 million business card and dominate your area, we're here to help you. Just text your name and any question to 561-962-1231. Write that down. That's 561-962-1231. Or go to our website at drrosscarter.com to learn more. Don't forget about our current $475 Warden's Jelly special. On with the show.
So I need to get this all put together.
When you talk for 2 minutes, if you transcribe that, that's about a page of content. Okay? This is one of my techniques I call the rapid authority creation method. It's in my new book, The $1 Million Business Card. Basically, one of the techniques is you sit there and you talk about a topic for 10 minutes a day. At least. Just try to do 10 minutes. Yeah. That's 5 pages of content. You do that 6 days a week, you have got 30 pages. You do that for 4 weeks, you've got 120 pages. And that's just words, plus, pictures and other things. You've got a book in 1 month of time. That's one of my quick ways to write the book, and it was taught to me. But obviously, you need to know what to write about. But you can get the content, and it's not as hard as you think if you have the proper guidance and know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, it's going to forget it. It takes forever, and it's not worth trying to figure out. But that's what I went through myself, just so that I could learn how to write my own book.
So tell me about the $1 Million Business Card. So how do people take this kind of next step with you? How can they get help from you so they can have these same experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. If they go to my website, drrosscarter.com, it'll have all the connection and they can find it there. And in it, I go through some stories. I go through why I decided to write this book and my path of where I am now. Because one of the things is I had a large regenerative practice in Atlanta, but I was only helping a few people at a time. I mean, you can only help so many people one-on-one. And I honestly was kind of selfish because I wanted to help people, but I wasn't helping other people in my profession. And I don't know if you remember back in October of last year, there was a hurricane that hit Panama City, Florida. Did you know about that?
Oh, yeah. My son, working on his Eagle Scout, actually went up there for a couple of days and helped with the cleanup.
Well, my parents lived there and I grew up there myself. That weekend, my birthday is October 13th. But the weekend, before the weekend hit, me and my wife were like going down there because my parents are getting a little older and I want to spend some time with them. So we went there for my birthday week and we looked at the weather to see if we were going to hang out on the beach or not. And we saw there was like it was going to rain because there was some kind of little storm over Mexico, over Yucatan Peninsula. But, we didn't know. Like, okay, it's going to rain. So we zip on down there. And the next day we're watching, and then suddenly this storm in the peninsula became a class 1 hurricane. And we're like, oh, that sucks. And we're like, is it going to go right to Panama City? I mean, they didn't know where it was going, but they said it might go to there. And so we literally were like waiting it, and it just quickly became 2, and it was just getting bigger and going right for where we were. Literally directly, we're in the direct path. And then we got all this, everybody saying, get the heck out of here. This is going to be a bad storm. And my parents are not leaving. They never leave. So I'm like, okay, now I'm going to put up the wood and try to protect the house as much. But they never got injured or problems with their house because their house is really strong, but it's by the water. It's a 6 feet of surge. Their living room's underwater. So I was like, crap, this is not going to work. And I'm like, why don't y'all come with us? And they're like, no. So I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. I rented a little house. It was above sea level. The owners of the house they left. And they said, you want to stay? Go ahead. So they had boarded up the bottom part of the house, and I rented that house. And I was like, okay, please stay with us at this place. I mean, you're close to the house, but not too close where you can get, the flood damage. We didn't think anything like major was going to happen. Well, turned out something major happened. So the hurricane, it was October 10th. I think it was Saturday or Sunday or something like that, Monday, one of those days. Anyway, so it's like 10 o'clock in the morning, and we're like looking out, and it looked a little weird, but there was no wind. There was nothing. Everything was fine. I'm like, maybe the hurricane turned around. Maybe it stopped. Maybe it's gone. Then about 11 o'clock, then it started hitting. We got the outer bands. The place started just getting really windy. I don't know if you've ever been a hurricane, but it's not a pleasant experience.
I mean, thankfully, nothing too bad. Just some heavy sustained winds. And we just had our roof replaced from some hurricane damage a couple of years back.
Well, so it got worse and worse. And I mean, literally, the house started falling apart. I mean, literally, pieces were falling. Things were flying up. I mean, it sounded like a constant tornado outside the door. It was unbelievable. I'd never seen or heard anything. The sound was just bizarre because of the way the wind was whipping through the things. And the upstairs glass wasn't protected. So the glass broke in, and the wind was pounding the inside of the bedrooms. And it was actually pushing up on the ceiling. Eventually, it got to the point where it actually pushed up through the ceiling and opened up the roof. Now, my wife at that time when that happened was literally trying to catch all the water because the water was coming in. She was capturing water, and she was up on the upstairs because it started pouring in from the top. And I'm like, where the hell is she? Because we were on the downstairs. I grabbed her. I'm like, we got to go. And I'm literally running down the stairs with her. And then that's when the ceiling collapsed right where she was. I mean, she would have been seriously injured because, it was a heavy ceiling and wood and everything. It was crazy. So I was like, oh my God. Okay. So I had that epiphany moment of, okay, I need to change my life. And I was like, if I can get through this and we're not going to die, because, you get to that point where I don't know if we're going to make it. I mean, something's going to happen. So I got to that moment. I'm like, I need to know what's important in my life, and it's to help more people. And I knew what I was doing in my little practice wasn't doing enough. So I was like, I'm going to change everything if we get out of this. And fortunately, we did. Hurricane Michael was upgraded to a Class 5 hurricane, which is the 4th strongest hurricane to ever hit the United States. The sustained winds were 160 miles an hour. When I left that house, I grew up there in that area. I couldn't recognize where I was going. I was literally, where are we? Because the trees were gone. All the buildings were destroyed. It looked like a bomb had gone off. And I was like, I don't know how to find my way out of here. My cell phone wasn't, of course, working. I mean, there was no power anywhere. It was insane. So once we got out of there, we literally drove to Jacksonville that night. We got there at 2 a.m, but they didn't sustain any damage from the hurricane. And I was like, okay, I'm changing my entire life. This is it. Wow. I'm not going to still play this small life that I was playing. And that's when I changed everything in my life. I'm like, I need to help more people. That's why I'm going to start my podcast. I'm going to make a book on how to be successful in business. And I literally changed my entire life.
Yeah, it's those moments of clarity. And usually it is around I've seen this, I've experienced it myself. I left corporate America when I had a scare with my 2-year-old daughter at the time. She had downed a bottle of cough syrup and got rushed to the ER. And that was the moment. And that's when I decided, I need to stop goofing around here. I feel like I've got a bigger calling inside me. So
I had that experience, and that it'll change you. It really will. I will never stay for a hurricane again, by the way. That's the last hurricane I'm going to go through. The hurricane's coming.
Yeah, Floridians, man.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm out of here.
Always a story. People that want to ride it out, please. Well, great. So, well, Dr. Carter, congratulations on the new book.
Yep.
What cool stories, again, being able to, from an authority standpoint, the fact that you can tell people that you essentially were coached personally by Tony Robbins as a result of just having a book,
Yeah.
Of being able to work with pro wrestlers,
Yep.
again, just because you have a book. That is just so inspiring. So I cannot wait to get my hands on the $1 Million Business Card. And thank you so much for putting this together.
That's my
And
pleasure. Thank you.
where else can people follow you and find you and connect with you?
If they go to my website, drrosscarter.com, it'll have all the connections. You can find out more about the Regenerative Medicine Center in Atlanta. You can listen to my podcast, which has got some, if you really want to listen to high-end stuff about regenerative medicine, it is absolutely the best place to go to listen to that. It's really more for doctors, but because I didn't take the approach of trying to stay in a lower level, I want other doctors to know. But as I know, I have a lot of non-doctors who listen just because they want to know the cutting edge information, which is what I provide on there. So if they want to listen to some really high level stuff on how these things work and all the different types and all these things, it's a great podcast to listen to.
Dr. Ross, thank you so much for joining us. And again, you can listen to the Regenerative Warrior podcast. And then, of course, everyone can find you at drrosscarter.com.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Please subscribe to be notified of all new episodes, and also like and share this to help us grow. To find out more about this speaker, become a speaker on our show, to have Dr. Carter present at your event or podcast, learn more about coaching, consulting, tissue allografts, exosomes, supplements, legal help, or how to create $1 million business card to dominate your local area, we're here to help you. Just text your name and your question to 561-962-1231. Write that down. That's 561-962-1231. Or you can go to our website at drrosscarter.com. That's drrosscarter.com to learn more. Until next time, this is Dr. Ross Carter, signing off.